computer. Hi there, my name is Emma Slayton.
And my name is Massey, computer science student.
My name is Dahlia Triple.
My name is Jared Billups.
And this is our deliberative dialogue presentation. So we got together trying to figure out a way we can improve George Mason and our community here. And as we're all commuter students, we decided to talk about how we can improve the Mason commuter experience. So this year at Mason, this fall, they went and enrolled over 40,000 undergraduate students, which is a record for Virginia. This increased enrollment at a largely commuter campus like Mason also means we suddenly have an influx of undergraduate commuter students here at the Fairfax campus. Already, like we are seeing increases, like we're every semester we see increases in our parking passes when we buy our parking permits. We see all sorts of things, and we want to make sure that as we bring in more students, we also are making it so even though we are largely a commuter campus, we don't necessarily have to be super car dependent per se. We want to work on like you're making this a still very accessible campus for everybody. So a bit more about us. All of us actually, when we were discussing this project, we're all commuter students. So we all know firsthand what the commuter experience here is like, and we have opinions about it. I know going into this project, I was not a big fan of parking here at Mason, even though I've been going here for years. I feel like it's definitely something that's constantly ranted about by people like, oh my God, the parking here sucks, etc. Just a common thread. Like even if you go on Reddit, the George Mason Reddit, you see people complain about the transportation here all the time. So, going into this project, that was our experience, like looking into it. We definitely some of us have kind of changed our opinions after this project, though. It definitely seems that way. But anyways, after all the research we did, we basically came to the conclusion that the best way to improve the student faculty commuter experience here at Mason is actually just to focus on decreasing parking demand here at the Fairfax campus. So studies conducted by both by Mason and external sources suggest that ideas like staggering course schedules and strengthening the infrastructure and providing incentives for students using alternate means of commuting campus, such as carpooling, using public transit, bicycling, ride shares, and electric scooters could help alleviate parking demand here in Fairfax.
And as we've seen, the enrollment numbers for this year at GMU has skyrocketed, posing a serious challenge mainly towards transportation and parking. Now let's look at the problem GMU is facing and explore options to effectively address it. With record high of more than 40,000 students enrolled this year at George Mason, the Fairfax campus is experiencing a large and unprecedented growth and demand for parking. Since the majority of students in Mason are commuters, Mason needs to address this big challenge of accommodating the transportation needs for all students. According to official GMU reports from 2021, only 17% of the students stay on campus, and the rest are commuters. And since more undergraduate classes are being held in Fairfax campus, it serves as a core for academic activity and community engagement. However, the current infrastructure lacks the capacity to keep pace with surging student population on campus, which results in shortage of parking spaces, especially during the peak hours during the day. This scarcity unfortunately undermines the university's commitment to providing the efficient and accessible transportation options, but also frustrates students, faculty members, and even visitors. The scarcity of having access to parking spaces not only is inconvenience to all students, but it also creates other challenges for Mason's community. With lack of parking of available parking spaces, students may arrive late to their classes and experience stress and anxiety, which can impact their academic performance and overall well-being. Costliness of parking spots on campus is another burden for students in addition to scarcity of parking spaces. Parking fees and permits can quickly and easily add up, especially for those who mainly rely on personal vehicles to commute to campus on a daily basis. The high cost of parking permits and fees put a financial strain on shoulders of every student, who are already struggling with their tuition and books and other financial and personal or educational expenses. According to AMA thread conducted on RGMU Reddit 11 years ago by Mason Transportation Services Director, the cost to create additional parking at Mason is high, that is incredibly hard to do. It's easier to work on reducing parking demand rather than increasing parking availability.
Now that we have outlined the challenges students face at GMU, let's explore some potential solution to alleviate those issues. At George Mason, we can take a multitude of steps towards improving the experience for university commuters. Studies by Mason and external experts have suggested that ideas like staggering course schedules and strengthening the infrastructure and providing incentives for students using alternative means of commuting to campus, such as carpooling, public transit, biking, ride shares, electric scooters, could help alleviate parking demand for Mason's Fairfax campus. George Mason can stagger class times to help mitigate the traffic and parking issues at the start and beginning of standard class times currently. This would not only allow more available parking spaces when someone is parking for class, but it would alleviate a lot of the traffic that can be a hassle to avoid when getting to and from class. By adjusting the class schedules, parking demand wouldn't be as significant at higher peak hours, where it is relatively less in demand at other times of the day. A case study done at the University of Louisville explained that parking supply, in addition to course scheduling, can reduce parking by 30%, which is why staggering course times would combat this. George Mason should strengthen the infrastructure and provide additional incentives for alternative means of commuting to campus, such as carpool, van pools, public transit, biking, ride shares, electric scooters. If students and faculty are using these alternative means of getting to campus, that means there is less parking demand. According to a report published by GMU in 2021, the university currently employs several TDM, which are transportation demand management measures, to reduce or shift demand for parking and encourage the use of sustainable modes of transportation. Some of these TDM measures include Mason's shuttle system, free rides offered by CUE, and a commuter choice benefits program offered to full-time faculty and staff. Strengthening these and similar programs is a fantastic way of reducing parking demand at the Fairfax campus. Additional TDM measures that Mason could introduce and expand upon to alleviate parking demand at the Fairfax campus include providing subsidized Metro Rail or Metro Bus rides through the WMATA UPass program, which would provide more support for bicyclists and more. George Mason can also offer incentives for people who do not drive themselves to class alone. The parking and traffic issue at George Mason could be addressed by offering benefits to students who carpool or take public transit around campus. For example, the university could offer a dining deal to people who take public transit shuttles on campus, such as free dining hall benefits. This would incentivize people to take public transit rather than drive, which would benefit the parking issue and traffic issue at GMU. Also, Mason could better incentivize people to carpool to class by offering a great extent of shared ride parking spots, which are closer to buildings and parking lots. This would save people a walk and possibly incentivize them to drive to campus with a friend, which would better alleviate the parking and traffic issue at GMU.
Thinking about some of the solution towards the parking issues at Mason, here is how we will implement them. First, we could adjust class schedules and course offerings in conjunction with what Mason Transportation has determined to be peak parking demand times. In addition to that, offer more hybrid/virtual course options during periods of the day where parking demand is heavier, and during the periods of the day that have less of a parking demand, push for additional in-person/hybrid course options. Additionally, we could strengthen Mason's current TMD measures, such as its shuttle bus program, by offering faster service, weekend hours, and a larger service area. We could also make the campus more friendly towards bicyclists, e-scooter users, and carpool participants. With that, establish a WMATA UPass program, which would subsidize Metro Rail/Metro Bus rides for Mason students. Lastly, we can provide incentives to encourage Mason commuters to use alternative modes of transportation, such as carpool or public transit. This could include a dining deal for those who include public transit shuttles on campus, providing them with free dining hall benefits. George Mason already offers discounts on parking permits for students who carpool to campus, according to the George Mason Parking and Transportation official website. But we could make the discount even larger and also provide additional benefits for those who enroll in the program, such as increasing the amount of complimentary daily parking passes received by students in the carpool program that aren't already the permit holder. Along with that, we can have reward points redeemable for campus services or merchandise.
So I know that was a lot. We've gone over a lot in this presentation. So let's quickly review everything we've covered here today. So as I stated before, George Mason University can improve the student faculty commuter experience by decreasing parking demand over here at its Fairfax campus. Studies conducted both by Mason and external researchers suggest that ideas like staggering course schedules and strengthening the infrastructure and providing incentives for students using alternate means of commuting to campus, such as carpooling, public transit, bicycling, ride shares, and electric scooters, could help alleviate parking demand here at Mason's Fairfax campus. Reviewing the background of everything we've covered today, again, we've started off by giving more background on the current parking situation here at campus, why it is the way it is, talking about how increases in student enrollment are making it even more of an issue, and why we simply can't just add more parking, but and why it's just easier to address, like, instead making the parking demand less as a result of that. We then transitioned into like what the actual research said, which, as I mentioned before, showed promising leads such as staggering course schedules and strengthening the current TMD infrastructure, while also providing incentives for students using alternate means of commuting to campus. Then we transitioned into how do we actually implement what that research is into actual programs, such as, like, again, establishing a WMATA UPass program is one of the things we talked about. Another option was providing additional rewards and incentives, such as the Mason dining plan option that we talked about earlier, free dining hall benefits, or increasing the amount of complimentary daily parking passes received by students in the carpool program that aren't the primary permit holder as it currently is. That was, there's been a lot of ideas presented here, but those are some pretty promising leads. Just because Mason is a commuter school, it is largely a commuter school. All of us here presenting this presentation are commuters, in fact. But just because it's a commuter school doesn't mean it needs to be a car dependent school per se. Like, if we work on expanding these alternate means of getting to campus, you'll see more students going and using the bus. You'll see people using Metro to get here. You'll see a lot of people might actually bicycle to campus based on programs that Mason's doing. Only a few days ago, Mason was doing its whole Let's Bike to Campus Day. I don't know. That was a whole thing. Another program that they've brought back repeatedly over the years that is very popular here at campus. But these all go to show that, if we make the effort, and it seems like Mason is interested in making that effort, we can make it a more, accessible campus for commuter students. It doesn't necessarily have to be a car-dependent campus. So that was our presentation. Thank you so much for listening. Here are our sources, more of the sources we've mentioned in this presentation, here for you to see. As you see, there's a variety of sources, and there will be more sources in the annotated bibliography that you'll see later. Thank you so much for watching. That was not the end.